You're watching WALA Channel 10, bringing you more news more often. Now, from the #1 news station on the Gulf Coast, this is Action News 10 live at 5 p.m.
This pilot may lead to changes in the way the I-10 Bayway is patrolled. That story just ahead.
But first, keeping track of all those damaged cars and trucks. Hi, everyone. I'm Bob Grip.
And I'm Nancy Pierce. State troopers now tell us 167 vehicles were involved in the pileups on the Bayway, and all those cars and trucks have to be taken somewhere. Action News 10's Nancy Pasternak has been tracking down those cars and trucks at local wreck yards. She joins us now live from the Causeway with details. Nancy?
Nancy, once all the drivers were accounted for, the top priority at yesterday's accident scene was clearing off the roads. That's when about a dozen wrecker services stepped in. But now the challenge is finding out who took which cars and exactly where those cars are now.
Well, the truck jackknifed, and that's what really saved me from hitting the car in the back, really, because the truck started sliding down against the wall, and that's what really saved me.
Joseph Beverly survived the Bayway crash without injury or a lot of damage to his truck. But taking a second look at other wrecked cars has had him reflecting on yesterday's events.
Well, I'm going to tell you, the Lord, with whoever was in these cars, really, they was blessed, because some of them got badly, pretty bad. And some of them got walked out of it good, and some of them didn't. But the Lord with the ones that was able to walk. Those
who did walk away from the wrecks now have to find their cars. That hasn't been easy. Callers are flooding the phones at Alabama State Trooper office with hundreds of questions.
They're being released from the hospitals and they're trying to locate their car and getting back to normal.
State troopers have put together a list of where all the cars can be found. By giving them your car make and tag number, they should be able to help you. Now, once you've located your car, many of you will be dealing with insurance claims. Adjusters have already been out here all day, but if you're looking for a written record of the wrecks, you'll have to wait a few days. Highway Patrol officers tell us it'll take them about a week to get everything sorted out and written up. In the meantime, local wrecker employees like Kevin Jerkins are doing all they can to help survivors.
We've had a couple of the owners come up and get their personal effects out of the cars and look them over and stuff, and basically insurance companies calling, wanting to know if we have them, and if not, who's got them. You know, it's basically very confusing on who's got what right now.
Jerkins says a few owners have been by to get stuff out of their cars, but because of the damage, most of the vehicles won't be heading home. Now, if you're still trying to find your car tonight, here's a number you can call. The Alabama State Troopers can be reached at area code 334-660-2300, and they should be able to help you find your car. Nancy?
A lot of those cars look pretty bad. Once folks find them, what are they doing with them?
Well, some of them don't have too bad of damage, and so they're taking them to body shops hoping to repair them. Some of them are just not repairable, and they're taking them off to salvage and scrap yards.
All right. Thank you, Nancy. Bob?
Well, the big question is, what can be done to prevent a disaster like this from ever happening again? That's the question investigators from the National Transportation Safety Board are trying to answer. Carol Hunter talked with members of the NTSB team. She joins us now from our newsroom. Carol, what are the investigators looking for?
Well, Bob, investigators usually come in looking for the cause of an accident, but that's not the case this time. Investigators say they are more interested in how this accident compares with other similar pileups, such as one in Tennessee and Arkansas. They'll also see what can be done to prevent such accidents.
We don't need to bring our people in and determine who hit who and when they hit and that sort of thing. We're more interested in the institutional aspects of this phenomenon of limited visibility causing multi-vehicle crashes.
Golden says he may recommend fog detection and warning systems for the Bayway. He'll also look into whether or not collision avoidance devices or radar for truckers might have made a difference. But the Alabama State Troopers aren't waiting for the NTSB to make recommendations. They're already making plans to enforce existing traffic laws on the Bayway.
Carol, what kind of things are the troopers considering?
Well, Bob, right now they're taking a look at anything which might slow folks down as they cross the bay, including using planes or helicopters to monitor speeders and state police escorts going back and forth across the Bayway at 65 miles an hour.
Thanks, Carol. Nancy?
Friends and family of a Bay Minette woman are finding yesterday's Bayway accident especially hard to deal with. Mobile school teacher, Baldwin County mother and wife, Frances Beebe Kobos, was also the one driver killed yesterday. Accident investigators say her car was rear-ended on the westbound side and caught fire. Witnesses say it exploded before they were able to pull her out. Tonight, her co-workers at Maine's Middle School are remembering a teacher who chose to work with emotionally troubled inner-city children, and her family offers thanks to those who tried to save her.
She was never down. It was a gift that she had, and of all the people that I've ever known, I would have to say without a doubt that I know she is in heaven. I know it for a fact. And I also believe that she didn't hurt. I have to believe that she didn't suffer.
Maine's lost its other special education teacher just 6 weeks ago. Pam Farmer was killed in Fairhope on her way home from school. Services for Beebe Kobos are scheduled for Thursday morning at Norris Funeral Home in Bay Minette.
Well, we've shown you that state troopers are planning to watch Bayway traffic a lot more closely in the future. They hope that'll keep you safer.
In Florida, other safety measures have been in place for some time. David Autry joins us from our Pensacola newsroom with that story. Dave?
Nancy, when it comes to safety, interstate highways and bridges in Florida have an apparent advantage over those in other states. Our Charles Johnson tells us some of the reasons why.
Sergeant Vic Allen shows what steps are taken to warn drivers about dangerous conditions on the I-10 bridge over Escambia Bay. Turn a dial and flip a switch, and a message board on each side of the bridge flashes the warning. Something that's currently not done on the I-10 Bayway between Mobile and Baldwin counties. Emergency call boxes are another reason interstate highways and bridges in Florida may be safer. They allow motorists to notify authorities in case of emergency.
It'll come in at that. We come over here, we push a button that acknowledges that we received the call box. Once we receive the call box, we dispatch a trooper to all of ours.
James Salter believes call boxes work. When he recently got into a wreck, there was no call box nearby, and he wishes there had been.
You ain't got to wait on people, like depend on other people go by. You know what I'm saying? They're calling for help. They don't. It's an emergency phone. They just do it themselves.
The emergency call boxes do have their limitations. For instance, it's a one-way communication device, so you can't talk on it. You simply pull open this door and push one of 3 buttons calling for either police, fire, or medical assistance. Troopers say something that's been even more effective since they've become so popular are cellular telephones in cars, where in Florida, you simply dial star FHP and you can actually talk to a dispatcher. Allen says it's likely they were used during the Bayway pileup.
I'm just assuming that someone in that number of people had a cellular phone, and they were able to tell them exactly what the circumstances were. The number of vehicles, or approximate number of vehicles involved, the total roadblock of the roadway, the injuries involved. This gives emergency personnel some idea of how they need to respond.
But of course, most folks don't have cellular phones. So when you encounter trouble on the interstate, having an emergency call box nearby can be a real lifesaver. In Pensacola, Charles Johnson, Action News 10.
You'll find emergency call boxes located 1 mile apart along all interstate highways in Florida. Nancy?
All right, thanks, Dave. Well, it is a life-or-death decision for the jury in the Colin Ferguson trial.
His father should be here with us.
When we come back, emotional calls for the maximum sentence.
Also ahead in HealthWise, how a sting could actually soothe folks with a crippling disease.
And a food watchdog group is at it again. On the menu this time, deli sandwiches.
Now, Action News 10 at 5 p.m. continues.
The defense in the O.J. Simpson trial spent today trying to convince the jury that police botched the investigation. Detective Philip Van Adder admitted making mistakes in trying to obtain a search warrant of the Simpson estate. He claimed human blood had been found on Simpson's Bronco when no tests had been done at the time. He also claimed Simpson had taken an unexpected trip to Chicago the night of the murders, when actually the trip had been planned for some time. Prosecutors called the mistakes harmless errors and said to dwell on them was a waste of time.
Sentencing is set tomorrow for Colin Ferguson, the gunman accused of killing 6 people and wounding 19 others in a New York commuter train. Today, survivors of the attack and relatives of those killed appeared at his sentencing hearing. Their request to the judge, show no mercy.
However, I ask this court to take into consideration not just the rehabilitation of this unfortunate soul, but the fact that I will have to endure painful, timely, and constant rehabilitation due to this madman's actions for the rest of my life.
Maximum penalty is 25 years to life on each of the 6 murder counts. It's a tragedy without explanation tonight in part of New York City. One wall of a 6-story apartment building in Harlem unexpectedly collapsed into an alley this morning. 3 people died, 7 people were injured. Police dogs sniffed through the rubble looking for survivors, but it's now believed everyone is accounted for. Japanese investigators are on a chemical trail tonight trying to trace the source of the nerve gas used in Monday morning's subway attack that killed 6 and injured 4,700. Police believe it was the work of terrorists. A few minutes ago, they entered the headquarters of a secretive religious cult. The group had been accused in the past of making the type of nerve gas used in the attack, but it has denied any involvement.
The painful sting of a bee may have healing properties for the 1 in every 1,000 people with multiple sclerosis. That's the word from the Oklahoma Bee Venom Therapy Society. In tonight's HealthWise report, medical doctors say, watch out.
These are buck-fast honeybees, but their claim to fame isn't honey. It's their apparent healing power.
There the stinger's going in, and the stinger's throbbing and pumping.
I can feel the throbbing of it.
Kathy Oliver and Jim Lloyd both claim they have been healed by the potent venom in the bee's stinger.
Now, to make sure you get every bit of bee venom in, we take the tweezers and gently squeeze on the bee venom sac.
Kathy's remedy for multiple sclerosis is 30 to 40 stings every other day. When she started 2 years ago, she was blind in one eye and had trouble walking.
I can walk. I can see just fine.
It's great for sprains and strains. It's great for people that have Parkinson's disease, any type of tick or tremor, nervous condition.
The venom is a cocktail of different chemicals that trigger the brain into releasing powerful painkillers.
Including the deforming type.
While public interest is growing, not everyone embraces the idea. The National Multiple Sclerosis Society has stated it does not support bee stinging, and members of the medical community are against it too.
It's really not advisable because a lot of these patients may be allergic and have severe reactions.
Dr. Fred Delafield adds that if you try bee stings, don't replace conventional treatment altogether. Talk with your doctor before you take the first step.
Doctors say the bee venom may help some people, but warns others may simply be in natural remission and mistakenly credit the venom. The cost of bee sting therapy is $30 for 10,000 bees. The Bee Venom Therapy Society admits not everyone may find relief, but they encourage anyone who will give it a try. And if you'd like more information, send a self-addressed stamped envelope to HealthWise, Action News 10, Post Office Box 1548, Mobile, Alabama 36633. Well, skip the cheese and hold the mayo. Those are the battle cries of folks trying to cut down on fat. So how much fat gram damage are you doing when you eat one of your favorite deli delights? Well, according to the Center for Science and Public Interest, the same folks who warned you about movie popcorn and Mexican food, you're doing heavy damage. The group's latest study shows your average roast beef sandwich has 12 grams of fat. A bacon, lettuce, and tomato, 37 fat grams. How about a Reuben? 50. Or a grilled cheese sandwich, 33 grams. Now, the group recommends you stick with turkey. It only has 6 grams of fat. And here are a couple of other fat-saving tips. Substitute mustard or ketchup for mayonnaise and pile on the lettuce and tomatoes. They will help fill you up, not fill you out. This is getting very depressing, isn't it? We can't eat anything anymore.
I'm not hungry at all.
I know.
After all
Grilled
this.
cheese
Those
sandwich.
guys, they just don't like to have fun.
I guess not.
Like anything.
I tell you, it was beautiful out there today. Today was the first full day of spring. We're going to talk back about today and talk about tomorrow's forecast when we come back. Well, the normal high for this time of the year would be about 72 degrees. That would be comfortable, right? It got a little warmer than that today. Let's look at the almanac right now. 80 degrees was the high in Mobile. 79 was the high for Pensacola. Even above normal was Fort Walton Beach and Pascagoula, where the highs were 75 and 76 degrees. And this morning, above normal for the lows, 61 degrees in Mobile, 63 in Pensacola, 66 the low this morning in Fort Walton Beach and in Pascagoula. Outside Moss Point is coming in at 74 right right now. It's 77 in Mobile and in Loxley. Milton is coming in at 77. It's 76 down at Orange Beach, 79. Still quite warm up in Evergreen. Atmore has 78. Tensas, Alabama has 78, and so does Leakesville, Mississippi. So it was a warm day. As you see, very few clouds out there. We did have some fog this morning for a while. At 6:14, they did call out the dense fog advisory this morning, and there's a chance of some of that fog coming right back tonight as our winds continue to be out of the south. The high-pressure cell is off to our east. It's going to pump in that warm, humid air tonight. It's going to be pleasant overnight, but the temperatures, of course, do not tell you what the fog is going to be. Tomorrow morning, yes, there may be some fog. Here's the forecast for tomorrow. Thunder showers off to our west over Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Missouri as a system moves out of the Plain States and into the Ohio River Valley. Again, high pressure will be our dominant weather factor, and the warming trend will continue. It's going to be fantastic for the rest of the week. Mostly fair tonight. Some fog could develop around midnight and stay with us until sunup tomorrow. The overnight low, a warmer than usual. The overnight low is supposed to be about 62 degrees with light southwest winds. And the forecast for Wednesday, morning clouds, possible morning fog, and then in the afternoon it's going to be partly cloudy and warmer. The high tomorrow about 82 degrees. Southwest winds 10 to 15 miles per hour. Here's a look at our extended forecast. Looking toward the weekend, well, it doesn't look too good for Sunday. There's a chance of showers on Saturday, but for Thursday and Friday, sunny to partly cloudy weather. 80s, 82 degrees on Thursday, 84 degrees on Friday. And after the rain ends on Sunday, this is what you're going to see next Monday. You're going to see a rainbow. Today's weather pictures by Morgan Coffey. Morgan goes to St. Luke's School here in Mobile and attends the second grade. So great weather except for the possibility of morning fog for the next couple of days. Warming trend with sunny to partly cloudy weather.
And maybe the weekend forecast will change, I hope.
Maybe.
Usually does.
Thanks, John. Lance is here with Sports Now.
And one of boxing's biggest names may be heading back to the ring soon.
That's right. Mike Tyson just days away from his release from prison. We'll talk about that. And since we're on the subject of boxing, how about a boxing trivia question? Who had the longest reign in the heavyweight division? The answer coming up later.
You're watching Action News 10, the news team that brings you more news more often.
Well, there's no way of telling just how much 3 years in prison will affect Mike Tyson's boxing skills, but we're sure to find out before too long. But before the former heavyweight champ steps into the ring, he plans on showing his newfound faith in Islam by visiting a mosque immediately upon his release from prison this Saturday. Of course, Tyson was sentenced to 10 years for the rape of Desiree Washington. His 4-year suspended sentence was reduced because of good behavior. The Indianapolis Star is reporting Tyson's plans to visit the mosque, and more than 3,000 people are expected to be there. Saturday night, Pensacola's Roy Jones successfully defended his IBF super middleweight title by knocking out Antoine Byrd in the first round. And the man Jones took the title from, James Toney, was equally impressive last night in his first fight since the loss to Jones. Toney's victim, Carl Willis, who just took a pounding for 7+ rounds. Toney just able to size up Willis and club him at will. The referee mercifully ended things in the 8th round. And James Toney now owns a record of 45-2-2. Last night in Tulsa, Birmingham Southern proved themselves as the heavyweight champs of the NAIA basketball circuit as they beat Pfeiffer College out of North Carolina in the championship game. The Panthers in white came in riding a 31-game winning streak here. They pass it into James Cason and the foul. Birmingham Southern's coach Dwayne Rebold knows where to go, and that's back to Cason here. Triple team, but it just doesn't matter. Cason, a junior, finished with 27 points and 10 boards for Birmingham Southern as they beat Pfeiffer 92-76 for the NAIA title. All right, we mentioned the challenge for the, we should mention the challenge for the Alabama Crimson Tide women's basketball team Thursday night. They'll take on top-ranked and unbeaten UConn in the women's Sweet 16. Tide's coach Rick Moody says his club has what it takes to beat the Huskies. And now we mentioned, as I was saying earlier, Mike Tyson will be released from prison Saturday. He is the youngest man to ever hold the heavyweight crown. Our trivia question is, who owned the heavyweight crown the longest? And the answer is Joe Louis, 11 years plus. He finally retired in 1949, and it's the only reason he didn't maybe keep it a little bit longer. And let me ask this. How much money would Joe Louis make now as a heavyweight champion for 11 years? Now you fight 3 times, make your $30 million and get out of the sport.
A lot more than he did then.
Yeah, that's for sure. A lot more.
Thanks, Lance.
One Gulf Coast hospital is brightening the lives of many young patients.
We'll bring you that story when Action News 10 at 5 p.m. continues.
hot news tip? Call the Action News 10 tip line at 1-800-876-TV10. Or on your Bell South or Contel cellular phone, just dial star 10. Both calls are free and both make you a part of the Action News 10 team.
Time now to check in with Dia Foster in the Action News 10 newsroom with a look at some of the stories we're working on for tonight at 6. Dia?
Bob, coming up in 30 minutes, a family dispute may have led to a shooting this afternoon on the Gulf Coast. We'll have details. Also at 6, you could soon see more officers on the streets of Mobile. We'll tell you about a grant making it possible. Those stories and much more tonight at 6. Bob?
Thanks, Dia. Nancy?
We all know it isn't any fun being in the hospital, especially when you're very young. Well, the folks at USA Children's and Women's Hospital in Mobile are making life a little brighter for their youngest patients. A picnic lunch was held at the hospital this morning. On hand, several special guests on loan from the Gulf Breeze Zoo. It looks like everybody had a really good time.
And they probably forgot that they were sick.
I'll bet they did. That's a good idea. Always makes you feel better.
That's our news right now, but Dee and I will be back at 6.
And now stay with Channel 10 for the NBC Nightly News and Tom Brokaw. You have a good night.